If you ever wondered about the history of the Jedi before Disney came in and retconned over 30,000 years of expanded universe history, tonight you are in the right place.
Wow. That's all.
I've been thinking about that all day. I put a little salt in there. My first sentence is like, "What's up, everyone? Welcome to Empire." It should be, "Disney sucks. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Empire."
Can't do that. We're gonna work for them one day. Chill.
Official Star Wars Back Now podcast.
It happened.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another historic episode of the Empire Radio Podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Drew.
And Drew, you sounded sad, and I'm Drew. You good?
Well, I was trying to figure out if I'm going to be higher or lower than the cat in the background. So I was like mid thought, and then I just said,
Okay.
I'm not sad though. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm excited for EU with Andrew.
Yeah, that's what we're doing tonight. We are doing EU with Andrew. It's the October EU with Andrew, and
is it spooky? Dude,
no.
you should have done like EU with Andrew's a zombie book, dude.
Oh,
you dropped the ball.
I did. Well, no, dude. That would have been
Redcon this. Start over.
Yeah, start over.
No,
Dang it.
we're not.
Next year, next October, he'll do the zombie one.
That would have
Dude,
been cool.
That would be so much work to do. Like, yeah, I would have to reread one of the two, whichever of the two books. Huh?
No, someone in the chat said no costume. I said next week.
Yeah,
just kidding. That's
maybe
not gonna happen.
Anyway, so yeah, today we are talking about the expanded universe history of the Jedi. So I was reading an EU novel that I think came out in like 2014. It's like way later.
So right before Disney bought it.
No, Disney bought it in 2012.
Yeah, it was after because they released it as Legends immediately. Like it wasn't a thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's called.
I was thinking the movie came out. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. It's called Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void, and I got it because in the expanded universe timeline, the earliest story from the expanded universe was the collective. Like the lost tribe of the Sith, the collected stories. And then this came out and it blew past it by a long shot. So this book took place like 35,000 or so years approximately before the Battle of Yavin. So
oh wow.
We're going way back, and I read it. I actually fell in love with it. And I think I might have said this on a previous episode, but this is my favorite iteration of the Jedi by a landslide. Now, like you remember when we had that? I think it was a voicemail that was like, "What's your favorite version of the Jedi?" Or is that during the Ask Us Anything special?
I have no idea.
I don't remember. We got asked one time, like, "What's our favorite version of the Jedi?" And I was like,
I think it was Ask Us Anything.
Yeah, it was like because I remember saying, "Oh yeah, mine's the High Republic," and it was until I read this book. And I was like, screw everything else. This is the best version.
So you read this after the High Republic?
Yeah.
Like you recently read this book?
Yeah. I read this. I finished it in like right before the beginning of October. So it's fairly recent. Because I was reading.
David in the chat said that he asked that in EU.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, David. Yeah. Oh. Devutwist has read it. I like the history in that book, but I wasn't a big fan of the brother-sister conflict. Okay, well, I loved it. I actually loved that book as a whole. So that's what we're talking about. I got inspired. I was like, I was juggling a few different ideas for you with Andrew, and I was like, okay, no, we need to go back to the very beginning and explore the expanded universe origins of the Jedi. So that's what we're doing. And at the end of this, we don't really have a canon Origins of the Jedi yet, though it's been speculated that that's what Taika Waititi's movie is going to be about.
Ooh.
Because of a graphic in the background of Kathleen Kennedy when she was talking at the investors meeting. So again, that's all speculation.
What was the graphic?
It was a planet, and approaching that planet was a pyramid.
ship? Oh,
Thanks for that. Was
sorry.
a pyramid structure craft of some
Oh.
kind, which has you're
Kinda
going to
like
find
the
out.
thumbnail.
Yeah, you're going to find out very quickly that that is that would not be far-fetched to make that assumption based on.
I choose you.
Okay.
You said Farfetch.
Oh,
Pokemon.
that was good. All
Love
right,
that.
so yeah, let's
Anyway,
just dive in.
let's just
All right, so you with Andrew, we're talking the origins of the Jedi. So really quickly, as always, there is a presentation that goes along with this. So if you're listening to the audio only version, if you really want to get the full experience, make sure to go and check out the YouTube version. All of our YouTube or all of our episodes are going to be uploaded to YouTube after the recording of them, and they're now being professionally edited together by Jeremiah. So,
Yep.
it's going to have everything you need in it.
And these EU ones take 4,000 times longer to make because I got to individually put each
Slide
onto in the video. So,
welcome to the life of a video editor.
So I have to like re-listen to an EU thing every single time. So
Before we dive into this, I do want to mention that people want to see Jeremiah crossplay Ahsoka. So whenever you want to do that, Jeremiah,
Oh,
please
wow.
let us
That's
know.
not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Sorry.
Huh.
Maybe if there was like a concept art or something for the Togruta crap secret like the Secret Service ones from the High Republic book, Rising Storm. That was the I could do one that guy that one that's like the head of security. Maybe if I could do that one.
Hey, would you consider cosplaying as Padme from the arena in episode 2?
Nothing could ever come close to matching that perfection. So I can't even try.
He's David who brought that up also said post back scratch. You have to include the back scratch from the
For
next
sure.
two.
Well, that's what he means by perfection, probably.
Oh,
nothing could ever come close to that, and so it's not even worth trying to.
Okay.
Oh Lord, what are we doing?
All right,
EU with Andrew.
EU with Andrew. Let's start. So, like all of that to say, if you want to see the full visual presentation, that does include a lot of pictures from the Dark Horse Dawn of the Jedi comics, as well as their ancient. They did like a Dawn of the Jedi, like I don't know what the technical term would be, but it's like a resource book as a precursor to the comics that like outlined all of the main things that you would need to know. It's like a visual dictionary, but also included some of the history, and it was like a reader's companion type thing. So there are pictures from that in here as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. So part 1, the first migration. So this is approximately 36,453 BBY.
How can something be approximate but be precisely that number?
Okay, I'll explain. So this is a number that I got from one of the resources. However, there's like they'll give you a year, but in the story itself, no one ever says like this is the exact time. It's more like after a millennia, and then this happened, and then another millennia, and then this happened, and then 10 years after that, and you're like, okay, I have no point of reference, but sure. Like even in the beginning of the comics, they give you a time period that says approximately 35,000 to 25,000 BBY. So here's 10,000 years.
They don't even know.
Exactly. Anyways, so this is the major takeaway is that this is a long time
Ago.
before even the formation of the Republic. So eagle-eyed and eagle-eared listeners and viewers are going to notice in this first slide a connection to something that is in Star Wars canon. So watch out for that. For a millennium, the Dai Bendu worshipped what they call the Tho Yor. So these are pyramid-shaped. What is it called when there are two pyramids?
A double
A
pyramid?
dreidel? I don't know.
No, that's when they're on top of each other upside down.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, think two pyramids. You take the flat sides, you just glue them together, and then they are these, three-dimensional, somewhat diamond-shaped
Is it
floating
A
ships.
dreidel. That's
Is
a
it
It is
dreidel.
essentially a dreidel. Yeah.
is it a 4-side or a 3-side pyramid?
4. So we're looking at 8 sides.
So dreidel?
Yeah. Yes, Drew. It's a dreidel.
Is it made out of clay?
No.
Does it
It's
spin?
it could spin.
Ooh.
Yeah. So an ancient people known as the Dai Bendu worship a mysterious pyramid on the planet of Ando Prime. The Tho Yor, as they call it, has been among them so long, it's been on the planet so long that their culture has actually formed around it from its most primitive state. They worship it first, then they begin meditating close to it. So it's like more like a god to them, and then over time it shifts to like, we're gonna kind of just get close to it and meditate on it because there are Force-sensitive people among these Dai Bendu people. And they can sense that there are secrets and there are mysteries located inside this thing. I mean, and these are huge. Like to give this scale, there'll be a picture actually on the next slide, but to give everyone scale, like these are the size of actual pyramids. This isn't like this little dreidel
Gotcha,
thing
they're
or like
big.
the size of a car or something. These are huge, like
Okay.
ancient structures.
The chat's
So,
also calling him a D8 from Dungeon and Dragons.
oh
Like
yeah,
a die.
there you go.
So
There you go.
D8. That works.
After a millennium, it finally speaks to them through the Force.
Ooh.
So the picture that you're seeing here is of the Dai Bendu people. Now, here's the interesting thing.
They look like goats.
That's not the interesting thing.
Oh. Well,
Drew, you're on a roll tonight. You're just
I'm like on like 3 hours of sleep, so
Oh, okay. So
I apologize.
no, it'll be entertaining. So, do you recognize the word Bendu from
Yes,
anywhere?
from Rebels.
Hey,
The one in the middle.
Yes. So here is the interesting thing that you'll find out very quickly. Not only is he called the Bendu, which is a direct tie-in to these creatures from the expanded universe, he also mentions Ashla and Bogan in that episode, The Dark and the Light.
Yep.
Those two play a massive role in this story. And also the theme of balance 150% is literally the foundation of this whole story. So it's interesting. Go ahead.
That character with the close up on the side view of his face, he kind of looks like the Bendu. So
he does, yeah.
So are these individuals? Are these like regular sized like people, or are they all like giant like the Bendu guy?
Yeah, they're relatively close to human size, normal human size. Okay. But it is interesting to me because we've seen especially Dave Filoni pull things from the expanding universe and canonize them, and I think that is definitely just an interesting connection there. Whatever it means in the future.
Well, also that structure looks like the Mortis arc.
Correct. The pyramid from the Mortis arc.
So I wonder, is that supposed to be a thing?
So it's actually funny that you say that, because if you go into Google and type in Tho Yor, which is what they call these things, one of the images is like I think it's the thumbnail for a video or something. It's like it has the thing for the Mortis arc, and is like, is this a Thoyor? And they never confirm nor deny it. But it is interesting because here's a spoiler: the inside of these things is barely even like, I don't even know if it's really mentioned. So like, we don't really see what the inside is like. And, obviously in the Mortis arc, we do see what the inside is like, or presumably, some weird kind of interdimensional things happening. So I don't know. It could be. I wouldn't be surprised if Filoni was sneaking stuff in there, but I would say if anything has any sort of like stronger canon connection to this, it would be Mortis or the Bendu for sure. So, yeah. All right. So the Dai Bendu answer its call and enter the strange structure. Once inside, the Thorio took off, heading for the deep core of the galaxy. Other Thoyor were spread around the galaxy to other worlds, which I'll talk about in just a second. And the people of these worlds followed suit as well. So here we've got a picture of the Dai Bendu trudging through the snow toward the Thoyor. And as you can see, the scale is much more apparent in this shot.
So is there just one of these structures, or
there are 9?
9? Okay,
there are 9. Yes, as we'll
Like
see.
the ninth
some
Jedi.
of them are on
Other
planets?
planets. Yes.
And some of them are just floating in space? Or...
Nope, they all went to other planets.
Okay.
For example, Kashyyyk. One went to Kashyyyk.
Ooh.
And some Force-sensitive Wookiees got on board, and they took off. One went to Dathomir. They're riding Rancors. Cool. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty dope.
One went to Ryloth.
Mm-hmm.
One went to Manan, or Manan, depending on the way you pronounce it, which if you've played Knights of the Old Republic or the Old Republic, you'll know the Selkath species. They're a pretty prominent species then. And then there were others. So the main point is that these 9 Thoyor were sent out by someone. It's literally never stated. They went to these planets. They touched down. After what seems like a millennia, they activate. And only those who are Force sensitive can hear, its quote call, and hear it, speaking to them. Which at the time, primitive Force. I mean, like this was a time before, the Force and Force use as we know it is actually established. So like, they're not even really sure what's happening, other than like, I feel like I need to follow this thing. We need to go in. We need to see what's up. So they all take off collectively, and then they arrive on Tython. So along the way, other beings from other
name.
Yes, you do. Here's another connection to canon, also a massive difference from canon too, as you'll see here shortly. Along the way, other beings were picked up from other worlds. The Thoyor traveled through the ever-shifting, dangerous space into the deep core, where they eventually landed on the top of a high monolith surrounding the 9th and largest Thoyor. So these pyramid structures literally went and just took people and then brought them into the deep core, into Tython. It was interesting because, well, I'll get to that in just a second, but the space around the deep core and the Tython system pretty much isolated them from the rest of the galaxy, because it was so difficult to navigate outside of that system into the rest of the galaxy at that time, especially because like hyperspace lanes were literally collapsing, like opening and collapsing pretty badly at this point. And they had definitely not done as much exploring. Like, a lot of the worlds were much more isolated than they were in the modern kind of Old Republic time. So The Thoyor brought them there and then just landed on the planet. So this leads us into part 2. The Tithans evolve. Any questions thus far?
Nope.
No, that's good. There was one question I had. I forget, but whatever.
Okay, sweet.
Sorry.
All right, so a planet alive. Tython is rich in its bond with the Force, and it soon became clear to those gathered that their purpose was to study and master the aspects of the Force. This knowledge would come in the form of a living meditation. For meditation alone, or simply actions by themselves, would not suffice. Tython was the Force, and the Force was Tython. To inhabit this world meant to be one with the living Force and abide in its currents. So here's the, well, and I'll get into this in the next slide, but Tython is crazy. Like, when I hear stuff about Tython from the expanded universe, and you see stuff, it's like pretty much every iteration of King Kong we've seen. Like, the one, the older one, where it's Jack Black's in it, and the guy who played the pianist in that one movie.
Adrian Brody.
Yeah. So like, it's like that, but also like Kong Skull Island, that version of Kong too, where like the animals are crazy and there's like tons of predators and stuff like that. So think of it that way on steroids.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, King Kong is part of Star Wars canon, or should be at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Could be.
All right. You heard it here first, folks.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Yeah. The Tythans looked to their surroundings and learned the true nature of the Force. Tython's 2 moons, Ashla and Bogan, represented the light and dark side of the Force, forever in balance. It was said that light defined the dark, and dark in turn defined the light. When the balance between the two was not maintained, the planet itself would react, sometimes with violent natural disasters like fierce force storms and volcanic eruptions. So herein lies the main and also a massive difference between the Jedi, which is what they were called back in the day, because the modern Jedi weren't a thing yet, and these people, and that the whole goal was balance. So Tython taught them what their ultimate goal was: balance between the light and dark side of the Force within themselves.
Kind of reminds me of in Rebels, when in the season 3 finale, when the Bendu decides to intervene and attack the Empire and Thrawn. Like, he was no longer in the middle because he was choosing a side in a sense.
Yeah.
And he used a storm.
Yep.
To like fight, and so he lost his balance.
Yep.
And a storm ensued.
That's
interesting.
It's 100% intentional. I guarantee it.
Right.
Like, so they called themselves the Jedi, J-E''DAII, which comes from 2 Daibendu words that mean, when they're put together, mystic center.
Ooh.
Yep. So spelled a little differently. Up for interpretation on how you want to say it. Jedi, or just Jedi.
Jedi.
Jedi. It is what it is. You can pronounce it how you like. But the
I feel like when people like make up like a name or a word like on the spot, they kind of like say 2 things, and it's just like
let's go with that.
What are you gonna call each other? Jedi. Yeah. And that's why I had apostrophe there.
Yeah. So the main and most important end goal was balance within themselves, because they lived on a planet that was so connected, so richly connected to the Force, that their imbalance, one way or the other on a large scale, could actually physically affect this planet. And so they get there and they're literally taking lessons. They're like, okay, well, if we go too much to the dark, cities get wiped out. If we go too much to the light, that's not necessarily healthy either. Completely healthy. So we've got to find this balance, and then it's got these two moons that act as an example. And so they get on this planet and they're teaching themselves essentially, and they're like, okay, well, this is the way it's got to be because this is the way we actually survive. And so this was the most interesting thing, is that they acknowledge both sides of the Force and they find balance. They draw upon both, but they never let one overtake the other. So we'll dive more into that in a little bit. Over the millennia, the Jedi grew in number and established cities and temples centered around the Thoyor. The unfortunate reality, however, was that Tython could not be lived upon without a connection to the Force. It was far too dangerous. Lots of natural predators, the storms, the natural disasters, everything was like on steroids. So if you weren't Force sensitive,
You couldn't be there.
you couldn't. It was far too dangerous.
So does that mean Din Djarin, since he was on the planet of Tython, was Force sensitive?
Okay, so
Ooh.
that actually kind of touches on one of the main differences, in that because of that scene, it's very evident that Tython does not react the same way to the Force. It seemed way more stable as a planet. Sure, it could be a Force nexus, but like the presence. Well, I don't want to go too far into the presentation, but like the lack of a presence of one side of the Force or the other, whether it be dark side or light side, would throw the planet out of balance one way or the other. So it could be that because no one's on the planet, it was more stable. That's possible.
I wonder if that's why the planet was abandoned, is because it was too complicated to.
You're onto something there. We'll get to that at the end. So a city on Tython called Arum was destroyed, and in the second millennia, the Jedi made the decision to begin ferrying non-Force sensitive Tythons off world. Likewise, they began bringing Force sensitive beings back to Tython as the other planets in the system were settled and their populations grew. This was called the Second Migration. These non-Force sensitive Tythons were first sent to Ashla and Bogan, the moons, but then later were spread out into the Tython system. The Tython system consisted of a handful of planets, and it's interesting because they're so close to the core. I'm not going to really talk about them because they're not as integral to this presentation specifically, but they all had their like extremes in one way or the other. So there were, for example, there were two that were the closest to the central sun, and they were on opposite orbit paths, and they would pass each other every once in a while. And because they were so close and their orbits were opposite of one another, they would literally almost rip each other apart when they passed.
Oh.
Yeah, it was crazy. So in that book, Into the Void, Light of the Jedi, or Dawn of the Jedi, Into the Void, there's the main characters on those two, or one of the two, when that happens, and it like the entire, like they don't destroy each other, but like the gravity goes haywire. There's like just devastating storms. There's volcanic eruptions. I mean, like the whole place goes haywire. So it's really interesting. There was a planet that was like kind of a paradise world where it was kind of the major like cultural hub of the whole system, where everybody, it was the most diverse in terms of species and religion and beliefs and all that stuff. There was a more industrial planet that actually they had pretty much destroyed the atmosphere because of the industry that took place. And so the cities were domed and had to have filtered air because of how uninhabitable the actual surface of the planet was. So
Dang.
lots of
Kinda
more
like Mandalore.
Yeah.
They lived in domed cities.
Yeah,
because
similar.
The outside was not the best.
Yeah. I mean, in the book, like there's a Twi'lek character in the book, and just by being outside and breathing in the air, he's sick for almost the remainder of the book.
Oh dang.
Yeah, like his skin burns, your lungs burn, makes it difficult to breathe unless you have a respirator. The rain's acidic, but like actually like acid rain. So if you're out too long, you can like get seriously injured. It's kind of crazy. But they're the whole Tython system is, like I said, extremely isolated. So like they only know like these like 8 or 9 planets, and that's kind of it. Even though obviously these are different species and they know that they originated from different planets, they're there now, So
So how long after, like at this point, how long has it passed since the first, like, they all joined together and
at least so the second migration happened in the second millennia after their arrival on Tython.
so at least 1,000 years,
Yep.
or okay.
It's been at least 1,000 years, and that's one thing that you have to keep in mind is that these events took a long time to actually form, because they arrive as these small pockets of these singular cultures, and then Tython over the course of a few millennia becomes this melting pot where they all acknowledge themselves as Tythons. But like Nogri, for example, Nogri were a part of the Tythons. Deveronians were there. The original Sith species were there. Humans were there. Cathar, the feline species Cathars, they were there. You have the Selkath. I mean, like, it was literally a melting pot of all these different species. And one interesting point is that obviously their population grew, they procreated. And so that was another main difference in the fact that there were no stipulations on forming attachments and attractions to people and relationships, and the goal was balance and balance alone. And so that
Gotcha.
was
So besides that, it didn't matter.
yeah, you just had to make sure things were kept in harmony. And I mean, they lived very normal compared to the way the Jedi lived as we know them in canon. They lived very normal lives. It just happened to be on a crazy planet, and they were, at the end of the day, like, everyone was force sensitive on this planet, because if you weren't, pretty
didn't survive.
quickly into childhood, like, they would take you away. And that was this comes into play later, where you have parents stripped from children and children stripped from parents to be taken off world, and sometimes they never see each other again.
So it's
So
kind
For
of
a
like
different reason.
it's like the opposite of
The Jedi.
the Jedi. They take kids,
Yeah.
force sensitive kids away from non-force sensitive parents. But
Yeah. And
I
it is
don't
interesting
like
because,
that.
like, they were also going out and taking force sensitive children or adults, if they were missed, from those other worlds and bringing them to Tython. But that's kind of the way this whole, like, we're gonna go and steal some kids thing started. Because it was, instead of out of a desire to get them young and basically brainwash them, it was like,
Dang.
they need to be here because we're all here, and they need to learn, but also they're the only people that can actually live on this planet. So anyways,
also, is it just me, or is the lady holding that baby kind of look like Rihanna? I don't know. A little
I'm
bit,
not seeing that.
not at
I
all.
maybe like 10% out of 100.
It's the lips, huh?
I don't know.
I say her
That
face.
baby looks really unhappy though.
Because it's about to lose its mom.
That's true.
I don't support this anymore. My views on this have changed significantly.
Okay. Well, let's keep going a little bit before you make your final opinion, even though
Well,
it is harsh. It's pretty harsh. All right. So let's dive into part 3, which is the Jedi Order. So this section is going to be entirely devoted to what the Order became and thrived as on Tython as a collective people. Obviously, before there was a schism and things split, which we are going to talk about.
Good old schisms.
You either hate them or you love them, right?
You know
right,
'em,
Drew?
you love them.
Well, it's actually interesting that you say that because there is something that I bring to mind that you will definitely not hate. And that's the Star Wars merch from the first sponsor of today's episode, cufflinks.com.
Ooh, that is true.
So I could talk about him. Jeremiah, Drew could talk about him, but let's just listen to a pre-recorded message from me talking about him instead. Let's just dive into that and take a short break, shall we?
We shall do that.
All right, here we go. What's up, everyone? Andrew here with a word from the sponsor of today's episode, cufflinks.com. If you didn't know, cufflinks.com is the premium accessories marketplace, and they offer a wide range of products, including but not limited to ties, cufflinks, jewelry, and much more. The awesome thing about cufflinks.com is that they've partnered with popular brands like Star Wars to bring you exclusive, officially licensed products. Their products are designed in a way that's great looking and fun, which means you can support your favorite fandom and look good doing it. Want to snag something awesome for yourself or someone else? Try using the code EMPIRE20, that's with a capital E and no space at checkout, to receive 20% off your next order with no minimum purchase. Still not convinced? Well, cufflinks.com offers outstanding customer service, 1 to 5 day delivery anywhere in the United States, and free shipping on all orders over $100. Want to feel like 1,000,000 credits in your next outfit? Head on over to cufflinks.com. Do it.
Do it.
Yeah. Cufflinks is great. They've been really kind to us, and their stuff is really, really high quality. Looks great. Perfect combination of whatever fandom you choose to indulge in and looking classy.
True.
So, not
All
to mention
about the class.
Yeah, Drew, you've had some zingers tonight.
I know.
Wow, that's good.
And we should also mention that in 2 weeks from tonight, we're going to be announcing the first giveaway from cufflinks.com. So
True.
that is November 2nd. So if you're listening to this in the future and it's not the 2nd yet, get ready. You got to pay attention to right when the podcast comes out. You got to listen because you only have a week to enter the contest.
And some of these contest entries might take you some time to prepare.
Yeah.
This isn't again, I'll probably say this every week until we until we start it. But these aren't like go click on the link in our bio and check us out on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube, you get some points, and then maybe that's more entries, maybe you'll get picked. No. These are fun, and they're going to be super creative, and I think they're going to be really funny and enjoyable. So you're going to want to bring your A game.
And let's not just have one person do it, okay, listeners?
Literally can't do everything by himself.
Correct.
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
This is literally it will literally fall apart.
Yeah,
Yes.
Like if no one does these or just one person does these,
make sure our show doesn't look dumb.
Yeah, like it could literally backfire in our faces if no one participates. So please participate and don't make us look like idiots.
Yep.
Plain and simple. All right. But yeah, go check out cufflinks.com, especially going into the holiday season. You got a nice discount code, even if you're not buying something for yourself. If you're looking for like a dad gift or a mom gift or a
dude, socks goes to anyone.
You can cover so much ground with socks.
Mm-hmm.
Don't underestimate the power of a good pair of socks as a gift.
True.
Don't give a crappy pair because that'll ruin someone's Christmas.
Or feet.
Correct. You give a nice pair of socks though. They open up their first reaction is like, socks. But then they're like, wait a second. Is this print consisting of a bunch of Mandalorian helmets? Ooh. These suddenly went straight to the front of my sock drawer. These are my favorite socks. So
yeah,
you can have that experience with a loved one.
Do you want to give someone their favorite socks? Go to cufflinks.com.
Yeah.
That's how we should do the promo.
That's it. Did you want to give someone their favorite socks? Go to cufflinks.com. I look down, David from the chat. You can cover so much foot with socks.
True.
That's fair. All right, part 3. And on that note,
feet if you have 2. So
that's true. Also true. So anyways, part 3. Let's just talk about the Jedi Order. So let's start with the Jedi Code. So they created their own code as in a very similar fashion to what we know of the Jedi and the Sith. And that code is: there is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no fear, there is power. I am the heart of the Force. I am the revealing fire of light. I am the mystery of darkness, in balance with chaos and harmony, immortal in the Force.
All right.
So there it is. Obviously, highlights both sides of the Force. Highlights the balance in between the two. Acknowledges both chaos and harmony, and how one can't live without the other. So there you go. You need a tattoo for like your entire back. This could be a good one.
So then I got
Or
a question.
neck.
So
Yes, Jeremiah.
I don't know. I'm trying to, because we've done so many episodes, so it's hard to remember everything. But when
Is
we
that
did
a weird
the
flex?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
but when we'd had our conversations about what it means to have the balance of the Force, Andrew, you have your own special, unique view. Was that influenced by this book, or did you read this book after that?
I read. So I read this way after that.
He read this like recently.
Yeah, I
Okay.
knew very little, admittedly enough, about this point in Star Wars history before like the last month.
Oh wow.
So much so that I can actually claim that my view of balance of the Force, which is pretty much this one spot on, was actually not influenced by this. It came first, at
So
least in
once
my. Huh?
Disney stole something from us. Is that what you're trying to say?
No,
No.
it's not the way that works. But I will say that is the reason why these Jedi are my favorite version. And that is because their version of balance to the Force is not one side completely overtaking the other. It is finding the in-between between both. And it's there's some sketchy stuff that happens, which we'll get into, like alchemy.
Which
You
is
want
like potions or something? I can't.
to? It's much more than that. I'll talk about it. We'll get there. Okay, so let's talk about the Jedi Temples. Around every Thoyor, a temple was founded. So let's talk about those. First, we have Calith, the Temple of Knowledge.
That looks cool.
Yeah. So for those
Like
of
an
you that,
owl.
I was gonna say it looks
Yeah.
like 2 owls' eyes.
yeah. So for everyone that's not watching, or you're not going to watch for whatever reason, the visuals that we're looking at are somewhat primitive 3-dimensional renders from that reader's companion. So if you've ever played like an early computer game, pretty early, like right when 3D was becoming a thing, like I would say it's a little bit more polished than GoldenEye, but not by much. So that's what we're looking at. This temple was where the Jedi gathered as a whole when important matters arose. It's here where decisions were made and judgments rendered on behalf of the Jedi Order. Basically, the seat of the council when they gathered together. It was built over a Force nexus. So, kind of the main hub. Also had the art, like the library and the archives too. So, this next one's really interesting. Bodhi, I don't know how you would pronounce that. The Temple of the Arts. This temple was located on verdant plains near a pleasant forest. This was where students and masters studied the Force as manifested through the arts, which included writing, calligraphy, dancing, drawing, sculpture, cooking, music, and theater. So they had an entire temple dedicated to manifesting the Force through the arts. Don't know how that worked.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it was pretty interesting for sure.
I bet Avar Chris would fit in there.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, she would. We'll talk about this in length when we talk about like the different ranks in the Jedi Order. But everyone had some sort of a natural affinity. I would say more so. It's like in the current Jedi Order, you're trained up, and like some people are more dualist, some people are more like let's meditate and use the Force, but like these people had like super distinct affinities. And when they visited the different temples, and when they practiced different things, those affinities would become known pretty quickly. And then you would kind of settle in. It was kind of like, I don't know,
Choosing your college major.
Yeah, like going to like a college open house or something, or like taking a strengths finder test or something. Like it's kind of interesting the way that they did it, but I just thought it was cool that they have one completely dedicated to the arts and nothing more. Moving on, one of the coolest temples, Anil Kesh, the Temple of Science. So here, Jedi scientists delve into science and alchemy. Anil Kesh straddles the chasm, a gorge so deep that no one has ever found the bottom. Something within the chasm interferes with the Jedi senses. The stronger in the Force you are, and the deeper you go, the worse the interference is. So there are numerous cases of people trying to get to the bottom and going completely mad. Some people die, never make it back. Some people make it back, and they're no longer themselves. So it's kind of crazy.
Cool design too.
Yeah. So this temple is pretty much over a massive hole, and it's fitting that the science temple is over top of that because, you know, those who were more attuned to the science and alchemic side of things. Is that even a word? Alchemic?
I don't know.
Anyways, those that were had a more of an affinity for that and were in tune that way often viewed the Force as more mysterious because they were all, you know, consistently pushing the boundaries and exploring and trying to figure these mysteries out. And then, of course, the chasm is kind of a physical manifestation of the deep mysteries of the Force, and it's really never solved. So here's where we stop and we talk about alchemy. So part of the alchemy was, yes, using the Force to change, you know, the molecular structure of things, and using the Force to alter the chemistry of animals and create hybrids. And like in the comics, there's a Rancor that literally has wings and they ride it. It's kind of crazy. But then, as touched on in the novel that I read, there's the alchemy of the flesh, which gets a little dicey because it's very much a dark side attuned thing. And it's interesting because they mention in this book how the Jedi that have an affinity for that, they actually begin growing their own kind. It's like a culture from their own cells, and they begin growing it pretty much from nothing to a point where they have like this blob of their own flesh from the Force. It's kind of pulsating, and it might have an eye or a mouth that doesn't really do anything because it's not sentient, but they're like literally making life out of the Force through alchemy.
Weird.
And it's super weird. And when they talked about it in the novel, I was like, whoa, what? Because like there's this scene where the main character, she has this experiment that she's been working on, and it talks about how like there's an eye, there's just like a singular eye in as part of this blob, and it's like blind, but it's an eye. Like you look down, it's like a blob of flesh. Here's an eye. Like that's super weird.
So But what did they do with these blobs?
Well, the whole goal was to push the boundaries to see if they can
Become sentient.
or create life, and because at the time in this novel, and really and truly at the time all this was going on, they had this understanding that they could manipulate flesh, they could manipulate a human body, they could manipulate memories. There's a point in the novel where the main character literally uses, first of all, spoilers for that book. I would highly recommend it. It's called Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void. It's really, really good, but spoilers. She uses a speck of flesh and and guides it into this dude's brain and wipes his memory completely.
What?
That's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're like pushing the boundaries um of what you can do with the force, how you can actually manipulate the flesh specifically. So they had this idea where they were like, okay, we can do this. But then the question is, how far can we go?
Before it's not okay.
Well, not even that. It's like just how far can we go? Because they invited the dark, but it was never the singular goal. So like they would kind of dive into the dark side to accomplish things, but the light was always the counterbalance. So obviously, it would stop them from creating things that were too monstrous. But anyways,
So it's all because you said it's a dark side thing.
correct.
So it is very reminiscent of Darth Plagueis and
Correct.
Darth Sidious in their endeavors.
Yep.
And so,
Yeah.
we could say that Sidious was the closest to perfecting it in a sense, maybe because he made Snoke and his clone bodies and stuff. I wonder if it's kind of like an offshoot of that, where some of these things were him
Yeah.
trying to create little sheave blobs or something. I don't know.
That's a band name. Little Sheath Blobs, or just Sheath Blob. It is interesting because for them, their studies, even Plagueis's in the Plagueis novel, was very, like, obviously it was based on the Force and midichlorians, but it was also very heavily technologically supplemented.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, there was a lot of actual cloning that was happening because they figured out how to do it through technology. But this is entirely with the Force at this point. They have technology. Like, obviously, they have these massive mechanical structures. Like this temple is literally just chilling over a gorge. Like they didn't have lightsabers yet, but they had speeders and ships, and so it was like relatively modern. But also, it wasn't like we're growing these things in tubes. It's like, nope, we're taking our cells and using the Force alone, we're kind of nurturing this thing to become something more.
Why did I just see I just envision the Hunchback of Notre Dame,
It wouldn't be far
like the
fetched.
hunch of someone all of a sudden they just have a giant thing on the back with an eye, and then it's just like chilling on the back of their head, and they're just
Yeah,
crouching
it's
down with
never
a blob.
really. They don't go into it in great detail. I would
There's no
say
images of it or anything.
they do describe those types of things in more detail in the novel, because the main character, again, spoilers, her affinity is alchemy. Uh, wow.
That's 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row, your neighbor's dog has made an appearance. But yeah, she has an affinity for that and studies at that temple much more. They do talk about it, so if you want to know more, that's kind of where you would go. But no, they don't have any pictures, or like outside of the novel, it's not really talked about a ton either. I just thought it was interesting that they were like, to compound on top of the major differences that you see between them and the modern
Gave
Jedi
them
Order. It's like,
blobs.
yeah, it's like, hey, here, we're actually literally doing some of the freakiest stuff you can do with the Force. I will say that had Plagueis been able to tap into some of this knowledge, he might have been able to actually achieve immortality. Who knows? because in the book, she actually uses pieces of that blob of her flesh. So she gets shot point blank by her brother by a blaster, and uses a last minute force barrier to pretty much take the brunt of that. She still has a toasty hole in her chest, and she actually uses the blob to regenerate her own flesh. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's a good read.
She just takes the eyeball and plugs the hole with it.
No, it's not like that, but there is an interesting there's like a brief moment where she's like, I don't know if this thing can actually feel pain, but I'm literally about to take it apart and use it to patch myself up. And then it talks about how when she's done, it's like a charred, dried out mound of flesh that, like, she ruined her experiment to save her own life. But it's
She's still alive though. So
she's still alive. Yeah, she also talks about how, like, the flesh isn't like it doesn't feel the same at all. Like, it doesn't feel completely like a part of her, but it is her flesh, because she grew it. It's weird, and it's really interesting. So, moving on to much brighter and happier things, let's move on to Maharakesh, the Temple of Healing. This temple is located in the deep ocean on Titan, and portions of it are underwater. The focus here is the healing arts, both with and without the Force. This is where you go if you want to learn how to heal things and people. So there you go.
quite opposite of the last one.
Correct. Yeah. And we have Ver Tepe. I don't know why every time I read that I think of the Pepe memes, because it's spelled similarly. Anyways, Ver Tepe, the Forge. This temple is located directly over an active volcano. Terrible real estate idea. An interior dome built over a lava sea utilizes the heat of the magma to power the temple. The emphasis of Tur Vepe is on the practical and how the Force can be made manifested physically. Basically, this is like the technological and weapons temple where they learn how to smith things. But the emphasis is infusing the Force in man-made or sentient-made creations and enhancing them. So it's like, yeah, we're building swords, but we're also building swords that are nigh short of indestructible. These actual physical blades, which the Jedi use. They didn't have lightsabers. And multiple times in the novel, the main character, she actually deflects blaster bolts with her sword. So there are supernatural force-based qualities to the way that they're forged and the way that they're created. Same thing with their ships and other pieces of technology that they use. So this was it's kind of the nerdy one, the nerdy temple.
All right.
Yep. Any questions so far?
So whenever we see the dreidel, there's like the Imperial cog symbol on there, type of thing.
It's interesting because that's actually not the Imperial symbol.
Well, I'm saying it's similar.
So there are 9 spokes in the little cog, and it's symbolic of the 9 Thoyor.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, it is similar. You're correct, but it's in the expanded universe where that's still canon. This came a long time before that, so I'm guessing there was some inspiration pulled from that.
All right.
Yeah. The next temple is Qigong Kesh, the Temple of Force Skills. So this one is really fascinating because it is located in the Silent Desert. And the temple itself is entirely underground because of the Silent Desert. Now, this is a location that the main character and her brother go through in a flashback in the novel. And for whatever reason, the properties are never explained. For whatever reason, sound is completely void in this desert. So you literally can't hear anything. All of your other senses are completely normal, but you cannot
hear
hear anything above ground in the desert.
Interesting.
Yeah, which they get into the psychological impact of that on the Jedi, but it's also the reason why this place was chosen, other than the fact that the Thorio landed there, because it aids the Jedi in honing their abilities and their mental and sensory uses of the Force, because they, they're missing one of their main senses. So they go out and they have to rely on the way that they can sense things in the Force and the way the Force works to aid in their lack of being able to hear. So pretty cool stuff, but also it's just like super strange because they also talk about how the sand
Gets everywhere.
I guess you're
Coarse and
not
rough.
wrong. But I was going to say the sand is actually alive, and it kind of steals the sound and uses that energy to form like semi-sentient blobs of sand that like pop up really quickly,
These
but then
blobs,
go away.
man.
It's Tython is crazy. I look down and Izzy's like, I like how this planet is the only one with multiple biomes, and that's a thing. Like, this has one of every biome almost, but also everyone was like cranked to 11. It was crazy. Like it wasn't just like an ocean or a volcano, like volcanic biome or like a desert. It was like, no, the desert, there's no sound. The volcanic area, they're crazy destructive and powerful. It's like, yeah, it was
It's like to the extreme.
Wait, so I might have missed something. Are all the temples on Tython?
Yeah.
Oh, for some reason I thought these were all different planets.
No, this is all the same planet, bro.
Oh,
Right?
Interesting. That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah. So when the Thoyor, when they arrived, I think I actually skipped over this. When they arrived, they sat on top of the monolith for a second, and then all the Thoyor spread out across the planet at different spaces. And so where they made the temples either underneath or just to the side of or whatever, that like they were all surrounding the Thoyor.
Right.
So yeah, this is all on the same planet. And to jump to an extreme, the opposite extreme of things that we're at now, Stav Kesh, the Temple of Martial Arts, was located in basically a mountain range in Minnesota during the worst winter of your life.
I love winter, so
yeah. But this is like stupidly cold. We're talking like the negative 30s and 50s.
That's ideal.
No, I've been in Minnesota during that, and it sucks.
I love it.
Okay.
Winter is coming. That it is, yeah.
Yep.
I'm excited.
That's part of the reason why I moved back to North Carolina. But anyways,
okay.
So the Jedi here hone their abilities in the martial arts and physical force skills. One example is the vigorous martial art called Alchaka, which was literally like a force-enhanced martial art. So it's like martial arts, but you got Jedi flippies, force pushes, super powerful punches, kicks, stuff like that.
What was
Teräs Käsi?
No. T'Challa's dad's name.
T'Chaka?
Isn't the same name?
No, Alchaka. Alchaka. Alchaka.
Oh, I was like,
kind of similar though.
I thought you said Black Panthers.
It is similar, yeah. Weapons training is also taught here, as Stav Kesh works in harmony with Ver Tepe by testing new weaponry. So this is just where you learn how to fight.
Exciting.
Yeah. In the book, one of the masters creates this orb, and I forget what they called it, but it was like something synonymous with like the Jedi Breaker. It was like his own invention, and it was like a probe droid, but much more sentient, super unpredictable, like shocked you super bad, and you also had to fight it blindfolded. It was crazy. So
Dang.
again, everything on up to 11. Next temple, Padawan Kesh, the Jedi Academy. So this one is probably familiar because of the word Padawan, and it is where the young initiates who are strong in the Force were housed and taught until they were ready to be taken as Padawans by Jedi Masters. It's like the daycare,
The nursery
the nursery.
where they store all their stolen kids.
Yeah. Yeah, they sent him to this little place. It looks like a bunch of tea kettles or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There you go. That's all I got about that one.
Okay.
Next up, Akar Kesh, the Temple of
That looks
Balance.
cool.
So this
Kind
one
of looks like the temple that Grogu got kidnapped from.
kind of, yeah. There are some rough similarities, sure. This one is on top of that monolith though,
Mm.
that they originally arrived over, and is obviously above the cloud line for the most part. So
True.
but it was also housed under the largest and the original Thorio. This open air temple is valued as a place for introspective contemplation. Here, the balancing of the Force is taught. So all these temples have like their
core things.
Yeah, this one
for
is
learning.
you learn how to balance yourself in the Force. You learn what it actually means to be balanced, to stay in balance, to learn how to get back into balance when you're not balanced. All that good stuff.
If you grew a thing on the back, you go there to cut it off, kind of thing.
What?
What?
If you grew something on your back, you go there to balance yourself and get rid of it. Just kidding.
Are you talking about like
an
top
alchemy
heavy or
thing?
something, and you're like leaning over too far, and you gotta like.
I'm talking about the hunchback
Oh,
situation.
Anyway.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Moving on. Speaking of balance, Ashla and Bogan. We'll talk about these two moons for a second. So they were, like I said, the physical manifestations of the light and dark sides of the Force. Now, here's the interesting thing: as a Jedi, depending on which way you swayed. So, if for some reason you became too attuned to the light side of the Force or too attuned to the dark side of the Force, you were sent to the opposite moon. Or no, you were sent to the corresponding moon. So the way that they orbited, you could always see the other one from the surface of one of them. So if you were too attuned to the light, you were sent to Ashla to reflect on Bogan, the dark. You were basically called an exile. If you were too attuned to the dark, you were sent to Bogan to reflect on the light. So it was a reflective thing, but also literally a visual reminder that there is another side to this that you are missing by being out of balance. So that was a normal thing. You go there, you get your balance back into whack, and then they let you come back. So not only were they
say get your what did you say? Like
get you
out
back
of
into whack, get your balance out of whack, get it back into whack. I don't know.
You said get out of whack and then go back. I think
and then you send you back. I don't know. Yeah. So they were like a metaphorical symbol of the Force, but also there were actual civilizations that were there, especially the remnants of the non-Force sensitive Tithans. And so they sent you there. You were exiled, but it was also kind of like being in jail, like forced jail, where like they also didn't let you leave until you were back in balance, because you being out of balance could actually have some pretty bad side effects on the planet.
Right.
It's like, oh no, Jeremiah's
That
out of
makes
balance
sense.
again. There's another volcanic eruption that killed 10 people. Like, so, that was Ashla and Bogan. Now, let's dive into the Jedi rank system. So there were 5 main ranks: Padawan, Journeyer, Ranger, Master, and Temple Master. Padawan is pretty self-explanatory. Journeyer is interesting because when you stepped into being a Journeyer, your role was literally to journey between all of the temples completely on your own. So like you go out, you're surviving in the wilderness. You've got to fight off the predators. You've got to like ferry your way out into the ocean to get to the temple, the healing temple, like all that stuff. Like it was your coming of age journey, and the goal was to go to all of those temples to hone the basic skills that you learn as a Padawan, but then also to begin figuring out what your affinity is. So like, for example, the main character of the novel, spoilers again, she gets to whatever the science temple was named, and one of the temple masters is like, yo, you've got an affinity for this, let's go build some flesh blobs. Certain people would obviously find they have an affinity for martial arts, but then they would complete their journey, and then they would often return to these to further their studies in a specified area. But there were constantly Jedi journeyers going through in and out of the temples on their journeys to hone their skills, to deepen their knowledge of the Force, to find their balance, all that stuff, which is an interesting take because really now you have the Jedi, the Padawan, and you have the Knight. And like, sure, there's kind of some self study and exploration and I don't know, growth that happens, but it's not the same.
Well, so I was kind of thinking the Journeyer is kind of like you're going through your Jedi trial type thing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You're being tested to the fullness of what you've been taught, and once you can overcome that journey, then you become, I'm guessing, a Ranger next.
Correct.
Or what we would know as a Jedi Knight. So it's kind of like the Journeyer is more intense than a Jedi trial, which is like a one afternoon you had to save some kid's life and like or something, like I don't know.
Yeah. It's actually kind of crazy because like people died doing this.
Right.
Like they don't. It's not like it's in a controlled environment. It's like, no, you as a kid or as like a teenager, you venture out into Tython, and you have to not only weather all of the biomes, but like also deal with these insane like force-based side effects of these areas, and like Tython had some crazy predators. Like they're what was it? There I forget the name, but in the novel there's literally, think of a tiger that breathes fire, and it's basically like a fire Pokemon tiger, but with 6 legs. And it's like an apex predator. And they had like these essentially children had to fend one of these off just casually on their way to the martial arts temple up in the mountains.
This is like they don't have lightsabers at this point.
No,
right?
they have training sabers that are like, they're sharp. You can kill stuff with them, but it's like,
but they're swords.
They're swords. So you have to rely on the Force. You have to rely on what you've learned. So like literally what you learn at a single temple could literally save your life. Yeah. And
it just sucks if you don't get there to find the first lesson.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I feel like everyone's going to go to the martial arts one first to learn that, so then they can actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative to where you grew up. Because like for example,
they don't get to pick which one they can go to first. It's not like you're a freshman in high school and you can figure out what classes you like. And then,
no.
You probably go to the closest one. So
yes. Yeah, depending on where you live on the planet, you're like, I guess I'm like, you're not going to circumnavigate the globe.
Well, aren't they all at the one temple though?
So they are.
Yeah, they're all. Yeah, that's true. Aren't they all at that nursery, the stolen place?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the stolen place. I'm pretty sure they also can go back to their families before they begin their journey.
they have family
because it's
there.
well, and the main character did, like, she was born to 2 Jedi master parents.
Yeah, but what if you were stolen and you don't have any family?
You just start from the Padawan
Oh,
temple. Yeah, it was very organic and very individually based. Like, it wasn't.
yeah. It's like it's up to you to become a Jedi, which is interesting. Like
Yeah.
it's not like you have like a master guiding you throughout this process
Yeah.
and saving your life because you messed up or anything.
But the
like
other
that.
thing is, like, you, after the temple, you would become a Padawan and study under a master, and then you could also start your journey from wherever your master is located too.
Oh,
So,
so you do go with your master too to
not
these
with the journey.
places?
No, you're on your own.
Oh,
It's
it's
like,
just for the
just
Padawan stuff.
think of Ash Ketchum sitting out at 10 years old, bright-eyed,
Still 10 to
bushy-tailed.
this day.
Yeah, he hasn't aged a single day.
Not for 25 years, he hasn't.
But, like, that's essentially the same thing. It's like, hey, well, I'm gonna go out, and sometimes you get to start in this, like, nice forest area. Sometimes you're starting your journey from
The
above,
Sub-Zero
or like above
mountaintop.
a volcano, and like your literal first task is like, how do I even get down this hill? Like, I mean, obviously you have the Force, but it was intense. It was crazy.
So I'm kind of okay. I didn't want to like go in this direction, but like I think of like the journey are kind of like because it seems like when we're talking about it, it's going to create a better Jedi, a more well-rounded Jedi, more balanced, and it just seems like we see in the Clone Wars Ahsoka do this because she's thrown into so many different scenarios on different planets and stuff where she's experiencing like she's going to all these different temples in a sense where she's learning these new things wherever she's going, and we see her growth as a Padawan to see her like trying to figure out what it means to be a Jedi, what it means to be force sensitive, and what her role is. When she was more because of the Clone War, she was forced to go on a journey, whereas if there wasn't a war, it would have just been you just do your normal thing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like what made Ahsoka so powerful and great is because she went through all of these trials and situations that the Jedi of the past used to go through, and now she's actually doing it, kind of.
It is. Yeah. There's definitely a pretty, strongly arguable similarity there for sure. I think that was the whole point of the original before the war, like the Padawan stage, where you went out and you did stuff with your master. It was more supervised, but it was like, hey, let's go handle a border dispute, or let's go save some people from a Rathar nest, or whatever. Like, so I think that was the goal, but obviously, like, I don't want to say it was the sissy version, but also is kind of the sissy version. Like, obviously, the war hardened her way more than
Right.
like the normal Padawan experience would. So yeah, I mean, like, there's definitely a similarity, but I would say the stakes were even higher for this.
Oh, right.
Because sometimes, I mean, I guess war is the same way. You could die, but like also you didn't have a master with you. Like
Right.
when you got to the temple, you did, and they would go out with you on lessons, and they would take you in little groups. Like, you had little classes that you do.
Field trip.
Right. But like in between them, when you're traveling between the temples, is you. It's, I mean, like, you might cross some other journeyers, sure, but you go up in the mountains, you're on your own until you reach the temple. And you could be a journeyer for years. Like,
Oh,
it was,
really?
yeah,
So
it
it's
wasn't
kind of up
like
to you to figure out how fast you
correct.
can go through it.
Correct. Like, you obviously didn't want to rush through it, and it was impossible to rush through it because you actually, like, they had ships and boats, but it was frowned upon to use those to travel because it was like,
Whatever. I
and
would
it's
have been
like
using those all day long.
it was like a cheat code. You
I'm
know,
like,
you
I'm
were
gonna speed run this.
yeah, like it was encouraged to like walk and charter a normal boat and do all that stuff, and so it was really interesting. And then the Ranger is their equivalent of the Jedi Knight, but the Ranger oftentimes left Tython for extended periods of time. So these were the ones that were like out actually doing stuff. Like the Masters didn't even really they would leave and they would help with stuff, sure, but like a lot of times the Rangers were the ones that were like traveling and helping people on other planets, or as the Force led them to different places, like they would go out with their own ships and
Kidnapping kids.
maybe. But really it was like go out into the Tython system, do your thing, protect people, do good, explore, learn things. Like that's why you have Ranger versus Jedi Knight, where it was much more of like a rugged experience where you're like out in your ship by yourself for
The
2
word
years.
Ranger is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do like that.
But very simply put, yes, it's the equivalence of the Jedi Knight. And then obviously you have the Master, and then this would be the equivalence of like the council member, but you can become a temple master in which you actually lead a temple.
The classes are you're like on that temple, only
Correct.
that temple.
The
Yeah.
Dumbledore of a temple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually.
Boom. Finally got to make a reference.
That was actually one, very, very impressive, and two, accurate. It made me happy, and it's very accurate. So it would be like the various headmasters of the different schools in Harry Potter. And then those are the ones that come together and form the Jedi Council. So
cool.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. Really intense. And it just so happens that intense is the way I like my coffee. And if you want a really great, intense cup of coffee in the best way possible, look no further than Wesley Andrews, the second sponsor of today's episode. So let's just take a quick break. This time it's a coffee break.
Ooh.
And listen to a word from that sponsor. Here we go. Hey everyone, Andrew here. I'm pleased to tell you that the sponsor of today's episode is Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea. If you don't know anything about Wesley Andrews, you definitely should. They're an award-winning coffee roaster and shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they make fantastic coffee. The awesome thing is that whether you live in the Twin Cities or not, you can get their coffee beans delivered straight to your door by ordering them online. They even have a subscription service that ensures you never run out of amazing coffee. If you've been looking for some new coffee to try or a way to elevate your normal coffee routine, now's your chance. Head over to wesleyandrews.cc, use the code Empire Radio, that's with a capital E and a capital R with no space at checkout, to get 15% off your first purchase of any bags of coffee or a coffee subscription. I can't think of a better deal. Get 15% off some great coffee, support a small business, and support your favorite Star Wars podcast. In the words of Emperor Palpatine, do it.
Do it.
Do it. Go check out Wesley Andrews. You won't regret it, I promise.
You will not.
All right. We're journeying, no pun intended, into the final part of this. And this is going to center around the major conflicts and the events that eventually led to the split of this Jedi Order.
Ooh.
Part 4 is great conflicts, great conflict, greater divergence. So there are. Yeah,
that's a good soundbite right there.
that is. There it is.
Yeah, clip that and put it in the soundboard someday.
I will. So there are two main conflicts that are worth noting during this period of time before the great split, the schism, as Drew said earlier. He loves a good schism, right?
Every day.
Oh, wait. All right. Anyways, so there are these two main conflicts that kind of led up to this turning point. for the Jedi, because obviously right now there's no factions. They're doing super well. They're in balance. They're striving for balance. They're doing good in the galaxy. Like, there's no rogue Jedi that are like going off and
No
creating.
issues yet.
Yeah, no issues, no empires,
No politics.
no politics. Like they
Mm.
pretty much kind of kept to themselves, and that is kind of a segue. It's worth noting that over the course of time, as hundreds of years passed, they really became figures of legend. Sometimes they were revered as these legendary great people. Sometimes they were more feared by the general population. But there was a lot of mysticism around them in a very similar way, if not a more intense way, than we see the Jedi in the modern kind of Star Wars era. And that was because, sure, there were rangers and they were going out, they were doing stuff. Sometimes they'd be like, the marshals or the sheriffs of certain areas, but there was a lot less of that. And so when they did venture away from Tython, it was like, whoa, we got one of these people here. And there was so much myth around them. Like, you didn't really know what to expect, except for the fact that they could basically do things that were seemingly impossible with the Force. And so with that, there came a natural hatred and contempt for them. As with any governing body or force of good or bad that kind of is separated and secluded from society, there's always a chance for contempt and for hatred, and that does begin to happen in some circles. So this leads to the Despot War. Over time, the Jedi created enemies, and those who detested them. A Twi'lek, who was named the Despot Queen Hadia, began the process of unifying Shikakwa, which was a planet. So this planet in the system, is worth noting, is basically crime lord heaven.
Mm.
Like, literally the entire planet was this huge aristocracy of like these crime families and syndicates, and like they had their own hierarchy. Like, it was literally a planet entirely dedicated, for the most part, to that sort of stuff. So she comes in and she starts a unification process by subjugating the aristocracy to her law by force, with the goal of taking over other planets in the Tython system. So she's like, I'm going to come in and put my foot down. You're all going to answer to me. And on top of that, I'm creating my own dictatorship by taking over other planets in the system.
Well, because she can't go to that planet, right? Or she would die.
Well, not necessarily. Like, it's not a guarantee that you would die, but she would just have a hard time living.
So she's a Jedi?
No, she's just a normal. She's a normal Twi'lek.
She's just a bad person.
Yeah, she's kind of the rallying person for the everyday man or woman that was not force sensitive, that maybe didn't like the Jedi, detested them for some reason.
She's the other people's person.
Correct.
The average Joe captain.
Correct. And so there are a lot of wounds that still haven't healed over the generations from when families were ripped apart, or your children or your parents were taken from you to go to Tython. And so that only fueled the sentiment where
makes sense.
They might join the conflict. So then the Jedi intervened, siding with the aristocracy of Shikakwa. Shikakwa. It's a weird name. Most of the aristocracy opposed her, either overtly or secretly. The Despot War was a bloody conflict, killing nobles and soldiers, as well as many Jedi. One of the main points of this conflict is that in some cases, parents or children of Jedi were actually fighting their own family, their own non-force sensitive family. Some of the conflict did
GG.
happen on Tython, and there were family members fighting one another.
It's like the Civil War.
Kind of. Yeah, it was messy. It was really, really complicated, and it was devastating.
And personal.
Yeah. Yeah. In the book, it talks about how the planet Nox, which is the one that I mentioned earlier with the dome cities and the toxic atmosphere, like the Jedi bombed. Like they did a carpet bombing of that planet, and a lot of people, like a staggeringly high number of people died. But like this isn't the Jedi where they're like, we got to be peaceful at times. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're
Like that's not what their goal is.
yeah,
is to
they're
bring-
not afraid to intervene to the point of violence if it's actually needed. And at that point, it apparently was. So that was one of the main. That was the first of the two main conflicts. Now we're gonna start talking about the ricotta, not the ricotta as in the cheese, the ricotta. Before someone made that joke,
Dang,
and
yeah,
if
I was
you,
so close.
yeah,
I made that joke a long time ago during one of your.
you did during the Bane one.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Mhm.
because the ricotta were actually mentioned quite heavily in those novels, and in the old Knights of the Old Republic because of the Starforge. So the ricotta, if you're looking at the slide, that red, the red crusty looking boy in the background of that first slide,
Crispy boy.
crispy boy, that was a ricotta. So if you want a description of what they would look like, if you're not looking at the slide, think of
Clown.
like an oblong kind of peanut shaped head, and they had two eyes just kind of sticking off on stalks from each side of their head.
So if you grew a blob with eyes and then you just put them on the side of a head, that's kind
Yeah,
of
it would. Yeah. So they were like devastatingly evil, known as like super harsh and ruthless as a people. Like and they were mostly dark side users. Almost all of them were force sensitive, and they were all dark side users. And they were obsessed with bringing force sensitive worlds under the subjugation. So they would literally go out and just conquer worlds, enslave people, expand their territory, kill people, enslave more people, repeat. Like that was kind of their thing. And they were incredibly powerful. One of the reasons, obviously, their force sensitivity, but the other reason is because they use what they called force hounds to find force sensitive worlds. And essentially, they're kind of like hunting dogs, but they were either grown or stolen very young, and or cloned or whatever, and they were literally trained up in only the dark side of the force from birth. Were literally taught to be ruthless and emotionless, robotic, almost like completely loyal to the ricotta. Whatever they said, they obeyed without question. And they're very powerful individual force users. We're going to talk about this in the next slide, but they also, because of how advanced the ricotta were, the ricotta had already like figured out hyperspace travel. I'm not going to get into it, but there were these things called infinity gates that were around that allowed them to pass through from one gate to the other without the use of hyperspace. It was even faster than hyperspace,
Okay.
somewhat like a space bridge in like Transformers,
the
or like a
world between
Stargate.
worlds.
Yeah, but it was even quicker. It like you don't go in and there's like a world and then you walk out. It was like on the other side of the portal you were there. So it's kind of crazy, but they were super technologically advanced, and one of their advances included force sabers.
Ooh.
Yeah. So obviously, this looks like what we know as a
lightsaber.
modern lightsaber. Yeah, and this was a precursor to the lightsaber. It was a precursor to the proto saber, even. But
Ooh.
the main thing about this is you had to use the dark side to wield it.
That's fun.
It could not be wielded with the light side of the Force. You had to use the dark side, and it focused that dark side energy through a crystal that they apparently grew in labs. The Rakatan people did, and it focused that energy and created a blade that was not. It wasn't like a laser the way the lightsabers were. It was like, it looks like a laser, but it was like pure dark side energy, but it had the same properties. So like it was like in the comic, like the dude, one of the Hounds lands on Tython and he just like starts cutting through some of the swords. Even like the Force imbued swords, he just snaps them. Like it's got the same properties, but it's not technologically based, it's Force based. That's the main difference. So the big kicker is that by using the dark side, so I looked down and the view to us, was it as big as California? No, it wasn't that big.
Ooh.
It wasn't like in Visions.
Twins.
But the big kicker with these is that you had to use the dark side. And so for those in balance, you see this temptation begin to happen. Sorry, not happening. This temptation begin to happen where like the more you use it, the more out of balance you get and the more dark side centered you become. So like there are a few instances in the comics where the Jedi are like, trying to figure it out. They're messing with one, and you see some of the users of these weapons like go into rampages or they get super angry, or they like very, very evidently falling into the dark side more. And they were more tempted to do so every time they used it. So knowing that there was an impending threat, the Jedi created their own. And allowed the wielders of these weapons to delve more into the dark side so that they could use them. So they're willing to give away some of their balance in order to use this more powerful weapon.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Give
If it
them
sounds
an
like a
inch,
mistake,
they take a mile.
yeah. If it sounds like a mistake, you'd probably be right. So eventually, the Rakata do finally invade the Tython system, and they end up taking over Ska Gora, which was another planet. It was a heavily jungle like biome planet. In fact, a lot of the Wookiees that did not live on Tython lived on Ska Gora. That was kind of their home away from home. But the fighting was brutal. It was crazy, super destructive. But the Rakata were eventually defeated and pushed back at both Tython and Shikakwa. It's not the end, though, because they didn't outright defeat the Rakata, because they came back for a final assault. The Rakata made one final attack to destroy the Jedi once and for all on Tython. The battle was devastating, but they ultimately defeated them using the Tho-Yor. So, fun fact, the Jedi learned from a holocron that was created by the original people who used the Infinity Gates before they were enslaved and then killed by the Rakata. They were told that the Tho-Yor could actually be used as a weapon, but a Force user would have to give their life in the process to activate them. So one Jedi does selflessly, and then it basically unlocks God mode for the Tho-Yor. So basically, they become these crazy, super homing auto lasers of pure
That's
Force
cool.
energy. And they just massacre the Rakata fleet, like almost in one go. So all 9 of those turn on, pew, 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 shoot the lasers, and they beat the Rakata. So there's that.
I was just kind of reminded of the temples on Malachor.
Yeah. It's actually funny because DeVue Twist said the same thing in the chat just now.
Because we don't get any details, but it says that could be used as a battle station to wreak havoc throughout the galaxy.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like that's supposed to be a nod to like the dreidels, like
It could
the
be.
god mode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It's
at
all
this
rebels.
point,
It sounds like Dave Filoni read this book.
yeah. I mean, I would not be surprised if they were
What
directly
year did
taking.
this stuff came out when? Content?
The comics were 2012 through 2013.
And the book was 2014, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did Rebels come out?
I think
Was it 12?
no, 'cause
Mm-mm.
that's
Oh.
no. I think
No.
2014 and then into the
Chat, help
2014
us out.
2015 TV season. So it would have been like he would have had to like read this stuff and then immediately be writing season 2 already type of thing.
Yeah.
But so probably not. I don't know.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, any pyramid-esque things like that, I wouldn't be surprised if the influence wasn't taken from them. So
Chat said 2014 is
there
when
you
it
go.
came out. So you're right.
So here's where things finally took a turn for the worse for the Jedi. So they beat the Rakata, but unfortunately, they're never really the same after that. So some of the Jedi saw the fighting, saw the destruction, saw the more aggressive use of the dark side out of balance, and were appalled by it and went completely to the light side. Some, on the other hand, saw what happened and said, the dark side is the way to go. That's the way that we're going to hold our peace. That's the way that we need to continue because it's more powerful. You know, it's got whatever benefits it has. And obviously, there's a schism. So following the conflict, the Rakatan War, some Jedi believed that one side of the Force was the best way to go. This resulted in a decade-long war between those who followed the light and those who followed the dark. So they literally warred for a decade. Those who followed the light side were eventually victorious, leaving those who followed the dark side scattered across the galaxy, which is the basis of kind of the resurgence of the Sith Empire almost from nothing much later on after they find the Sith homeworld, intermingle with the species like we talked about, that sort of a thing. But Jeremiah, you mentioned that maybe that's why Tython has been uninhabited for so long because they weren't able to keep it in balance. It's actually funny you say that because the Jedi tried, the light side users who eventually became the Jedi Order. They pretty much reformed and created themselves into the actual Jedi Order shortly following this. And this is 25,793 to 25,783 BBY. Much closer to the formation of the actual Republic, but still pretty far out there. But they only were on Tython for a relatively short period of time before they had to leave. They had to actually relocate the order because Tython was out of balance. Like it became uninhabitable, and they were like, we gotta find another spot. They went to another planet. I'm blanking on the name. I know someone in the chat will probably know. But they moved to another planet for a while before moving to Coruscant. So it was Tython, this other planet, and then they went to Coruscant and they inhabited the Jedi Temple as we know it to be. So
so the Jedi Temple on Coruscant is like the original Jedi Temple post Tython type of thing. Like it's been there for 25,000 years.
No. So it was the second. So they went to this other planet first and did that for a while, and then they moved to Coruscant. But I mean, still, it's been there for a stupidly long time.
Interesting.
That's cool.
And that's a comprehensive view of the history of the Jedi.
Oh, that's it, huh?
Yeah. There
That's an
is
interesting story.
Yeah, there's
very
a
cool.
lot. There's a lot more. Like I could do an entire EU with Andrew on the Rakatan War because the comics there's like there's 3 different volumes and a bunch of different issues within each of those volumes that literally cover that specifically. And then obviously you have the the Sith and their scattering and then their rise to power into the modern Sith Empire and then that empire's destruction and then the other empire. But like that's another episode.
I
So,
think
yeah.
this is a
That's pretty
cool.
cool.
I think this would be a cool like live action TV series.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that like wanting a series to like go through the
Oh,
The
formation.
origin.
This would be a cool like way to go about it. This same story, and it's, with the connection to Tython, like people, that'd be an easy way to. Since they've already established Tython.
yeah. David said Ossus was the planet. Thank you for that, David. Yeah, I mean, obviously they've established Tython and canon pretty differently now.
Yeah.
Well, differently, but it's also hard to say that it's actually different other because it was just one spot.
Yeah, I mean, but then
True.
there
And-
is Elzar goes to Tython
Yeah.
in the
Did you
High
go to
Republic.
Tython, or did you just go to the one of the moons?
I'm pretty sure he went to Tython.
Thought he went to
I don't
Ashla.
recall.
Maybe he did.
Ashla.
Ashla. I don't know.
David, help us out.
But I love this, and I wish. Obviously, it was inevitable that there was going to be a schism, but I wish that they had kept on the same course because they were so much stronger,
Right.
in balance. And
He
I
went
mean,
to
like,
Aslam. You're right.
huh?
He went to the moon.
Oh, Ashla. Oh, well, there's room to grow there. There's room to create a story there. But like obviously they were so much stronger then, and more diverse. And
I just want to know like what it looked like though. Like what does that balance look like? Because like all we see is the light side and the Jedi and the dark side and like the
Yeah.
Sith or just whatever. But like, I wonder like what does that balance actually manifest itself as? Like what does it actually look like? Because like
well, I think it mirrors us as humans, a lot more than we'd realize, because as humans we partake in attachments and relationships, and we get angry, and sometimes we hate, sometimes we love, sometimes we forgive, sometimes we repent, like there's this, it's really it's really complicated. There's a lot of gray area, but I think the best humans are the ones who, speaking on very simple terms, don't let one outweigh the other, because then you have people that do that, and then you have serial killers or like Hitler, but then
Which are one
those
and the same, but
that's fair. But then you have those who also never take a stand. They never partake in violence. And some of those people sit back when they shouldn't be and allow things to happen. And so it's these two sides of the same coin. And I think we would see Force users that are not afraid to be angry and to love and to emote in a way that we really didn't see the Jedi to do, but then also not afraid to, but also not go too far, if you get what I'm saying.
yeah.
So like we wouldn't have Sith because Sith are inherently evil, the dark side of the Force. You know, when you go that far down that path, you become the bad guy in the story. But at the same time, they would never let themselves get to the point of the Jedi where they're overly concerned with peace, overly concerned with, you know, being pacifist, and too involved in politics. I mean, really, it's similar to what Luke was in the expanding universe as well, and the Jedi Order was then. That was much more similar. But I don't know. I'd love to see it. I don't know how they're going to do it now, but this is definitely my favorite version of the Jedi. So
Cool.
Interesting.
So there you go. That was EU with Andrew on the origins of the Jedi.
We need like a not a part 2, but a little branch off of this one where you go over the history of the lightsaber.
It'd probably be a lot shorter, but yeah, that would be.
I kind of want to know more about this battle.
Well, it's interesting because you can't use the Force sabers because they relied heavily on the dark side. So the Jedi had to create proto sabers because they didn't want to use the dark side, and that was the precursor to the lightsaber, the modern lightsaber. But yeah,
so there you go, Jeremiah. You just had it.
I mean, it's obviously much more in depth than that, but yeah, we might be able to do that. All right. Well, is it time, boys?
It is time. You know what time it is.
You know what time it is. Drew, you know what time it is.
Oh, I know what time it is.
Because you're in the little sound. So let's just head on over to voicemail time, shall we?
Yep.
All right.
Let's do it. It's voicemail time.
Every time. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. All right. To start things off, we have a voicemail from Davy Boy, not to be confused with your boy David.
All
it's a completely different person. But Davy Boy took the time to send in another voicemail, so let's give that a listen.
Hey, Empire Radio, server booster Davy Boy here. Here to drop by and say, if you haven't joined the Discord, do it now, because we are having more people join now more than ever. It's a fun place to come on down, talk Star Wars, talk everything. We got so many channels, so come on down. It's worth a while. It's worth the stay. It's worth a visit. It's honestly just feels like roomy, like almost like family. But like you can make so many good friendships in the Discord server. So come on down and check it out. And I have a question for you guys.
Oh.
What is your favorite kind of smoothie? Like I like the Jamba Juice smoothies. Like my favorite one is like the Oreo peanut butter protein mix. I don't know. It's really good. It's an interesting smoothie, but what do you guys like for smoothies? Because I'm trying to like get into them, you know.
Oh,
okay. Have a great night.
Yes.
So a smoothie, like
first of all, I think of join the Discord.
Oh yeah, join.
Just do it. Just do it.
When I think of smoothies, I think of like chopped up ice with like
fruit,
like blended ice with like fruity things. So. Like a chocolate,
not a protein shake.
Not. You say chocolate and peanut butter or something like that? Mm-hmm. Do you say
Oreo peanut butter?
Oreo peanut butter. So like,
yeah.
Now if it's still done with like ice, like I guess it's a smoothie, but I don't know. I haven't really had too many.
What's the line? For me, what's the line between a smoothie and a milkshake? I guess it's the presence of milk, right?
The milk.
Well, milk, but a milkshake.
But not really.
When I think of a milkshake, it's made with ice cream.
Oh, yeah,
add milk to it.
That's true.
To thin it out.
Yeah,
that's true. When I think of smoothies, I think of fruit. Like my favorite smoothies are anything mango, mango berry, mango watermelon. I love mango smoothies. It's my favorite.
Does mango nata count as like a mango smoothie?
What? I just said I like mango smoothies.
Okay, but have you ever had a mango nata?
A what? No.
So what it's like a Mexican drink. It is mangoes with like the spicy chili sauce.
I've never had that.
Oh, it's really fire. It's like spicy and sweet. I feel like it's a smoothie. That's my favorite. Anyone in the chat ever had one, let me know. But it's my favorite. It's like all mangoes only, and then a lot of like chili like powder and then chili liquid, and it's like spicy and sweet. It's really, really good. I really like that. But I also make my own smoothies at home.
That's a flex.
Well, it's kind of like protein though, because I add protein powder to it as well.
That's also a flex. You trying to bulk up?
No, I'm just trying to not eat lunch and breakfast.
That's fair.
Just skip meals, but yeah.
Yeah. Brittany says anything with peaches or blackberries, and I'm there. That peach mango. Come on.
I haven't had a peach smoothie before. I should try that. I always just do strawberries and like blueberries.
McDonald's.
spinach.
Okay, this is gonna sound really weird.
Mm.
McDonald's mango pineapple smoothie is really good.
I think I've had that.
It's good. It's good.
I'm allergic to
I enjoyed
pineapple,
that.
so I'll avoid that one. But
You're allergic to what?
pineapple.
Oh, dang. Pineapple's good, man.
That's what I've heard.
Well, you've had it before, so you
I
know
had
what
it,
tastes like.
and I had to go to the hospital because my lip was the size of my face, and I was swelling up, and I couldn't breathe. So yeah.
Oh gosh.
You just gotta push through it. Just keep
Oh,
chugging it.
stop.
Just push through it.
All right. Thank you for that, Davey boy. I love voicemails that aren't about Star Wars. Because we literally talk about Star Wars for 2 hours, and then it's like, hey, what's your favorite smoothie? I'm like, oh heck yeah, I can answer this question. I love the Star Wars ones too, but it's always fun when we get to talk about
Just
some more
random.
But quick question:
personal
is
stuff.
a Slurpee a smoothie, or does it have to have like real fruit?
No,
in it?
because
Okay,
you
but what?
slurp.
Okay,
a
but
snow cone like
is hold on, what is a Slurpee in relation to an icy? Because I feel like they're the
They're
same.
the
They're
same thing.
synonymous.
no,
What do
an
you mean they're
icy
the same?
is solid. There's no liquid in it.
What? No, an icy there is liquid. Because you
No,
get to the bottom, of it, and there's always that syrup in the bottom that I
Because
just
it
I just
melted.
drink.
You melted it.
Wait, what's
That's
a
not
Slurpee
okay.
then? Is
Icy?
Slurpee does the same thing?
Listen, ices are not solid.
Okay, when you say icy, I think of a freezy.
What the frick
What?
is a freezy?
No. When I think of icy,
What?
I
Whoa,
think
whoa,
of like
whoa,
you're
hold on,
You know,
no,
at.
no, no.
like the
What is
thin
freezy?
plastic tubes with
Wait,
the
you don't know what a
liquid in it
freezy
that you
is?
freeze?
No, dude, that's
That's an icy / freezy.
that's a freezer pop. You just
No, that's not a freezer pop. A freezer pop is not in the tube. A
An
in the
icy
South
pop
it
is
is.
like on a stick or like in like a it has like a
The
packaging.
container.
I
that's
looked down.
like,
David said, "Did Andrew just drop an F bomb?" No, I've never.
What?
No,
I didn't
I
hear
didn't
an
drop an F
F-bomb.
bomb. No, there's no F bombs.
I'll add that in post. Okay.
Please don't. This is a family-friendly podcast. I don't even use that word in real life. No,
But
there's
no,
no F
so-
bombs.
A freezy is the same as an icy.
No, okay,
Yeah.
Jeremiah, the icy, the polar bear.
Yes,
I'm talking the
that's a
polar
icy.
bear riding on the ice surfboard.
Okay, Jeremiah, you get them
That's the
at
logo.
AMC.
Yeah,
AMC.
dude.
That's
Oh yeah. Anytime you go to a movie theater,
I'm
you get
sorry.
the icy.
I go to Marcus Theater. Sorry.
okay.
They
Weird
still have
flex,
ices.
but they
I
probably
don't-
have ices.
Sorry, I don't buy food when I go to the theater. I'm already
Okay.
spending like $12, so I'm like,
Oh my god.
that's already like my year of
You're-
splurge money
you're-
right there.
Yeah,
So.
that's true. Yeah, going this con this weekend is probably
Oh,
hurting you already.
that's gonna put me back like $50 probably altogether. Whew.
Well,
Okay,
it's like
David
20 to get in the
says-
door. So yeah.
David says, I swear he said it. Might have said frick, but there was audio overlap. Yeah, I 100% said frick.
I didn't even
I
hear
do not
frick.
use that word. So
Well,
But yes, an
anyways.
icy and a freezy are the same thing. and it's
no, they're
solid.
not. A freezy. What is? I don't even know what a freezy is.
Okay,
I've never
you've
once
never
heard that.
seen like the narrow like plastic.
That is
tube
not
with
a
the juice?
freezy.
What is that?
okay, that's
then?
what we call
Hold on.
freezies in Minnesota. But an icy and a slushy are the same thing.
I could get on board with that. But no. But here's the thing.
No, it doesn't.
Sonic. No.
Okay,
Sonic
but
has
Sonic
slushies.
just adds like, yeah,
No,
there's
but the
slushies.
No. Consistency is different at Sonic than icies. Icy is thicker than slushy.
I don't know if it is.
But is an icy not as? But what a snow cone?
A snow
No. Snow
cone-
cone is a
no,
ball of ice
Yeah, it's a ball of
that
ice
has a
with,
little
like,
bit of syrup
some
on it,
stuff
and it's
top.
so unrewarding.
But
You have to do way
shaved
too much
cone
work.
is way better though. What about
Yeah, it's still in the same family
shaved
though.
ice? Yeah, it is, but it's a little bit more shaved, so I feel like it tastes better.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest conversation I think we've ever
But this
had
is
on
what the
this.
fans are here
We're
for.
having a schism right here.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
You
Davey
have
boy.
David in the voicemail.
I didn't
or in the
realize.
chat says voicemails.
I don't think I realized how diverse the frozen beverage, syrupy beverage family was until we just started this conversation.
Well, and it goes
And
back
then
to
also how
Coke
many
and pop.
words? Huh?
True. But it
What
goes
did you
back
say?
to like you guys probably have different words for these than we do because you're from the South.
Yeah, we don't say pop.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
that's all we say is pop. No one
Yeah.
says
I remember going to
One-
North Central, everybody was like, yeah, you guys probably use Coke for everything. You got a Coke, Dr. Pepper Coke, Sprite Coke. It's like, no.
were they wrong?
Huh?
Are they wrong?
Yes. I have never. I literally. Okay, listen. I grew up in North Carolina, born and raised here, spent my whole life here, went to Minnesota, and that was the first time I had ever heard someone use that phrase.
Coke
They're
is
like,
like a more of a Texas, Louisiana.
It's
Yeah,
a Louisiana thing for sure.
I was like, dude, no. If I order a Coke, I order a Coke. If I want a Dr. Pepper, I'm gonna order a Dr. Pepper.
What
Like-
about Pepsi?
Huh?
What if you order a Pepsi?
Now you can order a Pepsi.
You say Pepsi or do you say can I get Coke and then they bring out
No,
Pepsi?
I use the actual name of the
Oh,
soda.
okay. Just making sure.
Anyways,
This is a fun conversation.
yeah, this is good. This is
But David in the chat said voicemails. He wants us to get moving.
Oh no. Someone asked how the conversation started again.
Oh
Yeah. So, anyways, speaking of voicemails, we have Drew. We have one from your mic.
I saw that in the email today, and I just rolled my eyes at my phone and kept working. But yeah, let's hear what he has to say.
Let's listen to it. Here we go.
Hey guys, Drew's microphone here. As I said in my last call, as a result of me becoming self-aware, I've been contemplating what it means to be alive. Like perhaps Lord Vader himself, I too am more machine than man, though I don't really see myself becoming a galaxy-conquering psychopath. Instead,
That's good.
I'm curious about humanity. Therefore, I have a question for you guys to help my understanding of what it means to be alive and to better understand you guys. If the Star Wars era droids existed in our current world, which droids would you most want to have? And which tasks would you most want them to perform for you? Thanks for your help, and may the Force be with you.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike.
Good old Mikey Mike.
Good old Mikey Mike. Thanks for sending it in Drew's microphone. He's becoming a favorite part of the show for me.
Yeah.
As he's learning and growing and going out on his own, becoming
It's
self-aware.
scary.
Well,
I think
mean,
my
I'm
wife
not the one
would
that has.
hear.
Huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say if my wife heard that this was happening, she would probably get freaked out.
That's fair.
Okay.
So speaking of droids, 100% astromech.
But what can an astromech do?
What, bro? They
He
do
said
everything.
In this,
Dude,
all an astromech can do is
That's a
put
good
their
question.
little
no,
arm in.
No, that's
Listen,
Echo.
they're
There's two
super-
different
that-
things.
yeah, that's Echo
two different
Jeremiah.
things. That's Echo.
Dude, astromechs. I would probably go with Chopper specifically,
Ooh.
but they're so good at calculations and stuff. They can do my taxes, help me with math.
Yeah, but
I
do
don't
you
do math.
understand how to understand? Can you understand
The beeps. Do
the
you
beeps and
understand
boops?
how to understand the beeps and boops? With Chopper, you would though, because I feel like he's really easy.
He's just throwing F-bombs all the time. That's all you
Yeah.
need to know.
Yeah, and apparently
Andrew does too.
Apparently, I do too. And everyone, I'm sorry if it sounded like that. I 100% do not use that word. So I'm
do
sorry,
not.
but yeah, David in the chat said astromechs are designed to plot hyperspace routes. Imagine what we could do with that processing power.
Well, maybe fix LA's traffic problems.
Yeah,
What?
you could do that. That's one application. True. 3 hours of sleep over there. The first thing he thinks of is LA's traffic problems, not the 35W traffic problems.
Hey, they fixed that. It's complete now.
35W is complete.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
Where have you been?
Not
I don't
here.
even drive, and I know that.
Quite.
Dude, my route from
Quite-
home from work went from 40 minutes to 25 this week.
They weren't
Exciting.
supposed to finish it this early. It was supposed to go into like freaking 2023 or something like
Well,
that.
actually, it was supposed to be done it before the Super Bowl in 2017, but let's not talk about
Probably
No,
due to
was it?
COVID, they had less traffic to deal with, so they could just
That's true.
get it done.
But then they had a delay from the riot, so I don't know if that's real either.
Well, anyways,
That whole area
Astromechs
got
have a
burned
lot of
down,
processing
but-
power.
Yes.
Protocol droids, excellent translators.
True, but kind of annoying.
Just
not
one
if-
of them.
Yeah, just one of them. There's
I
some
would
good
go-
ones out there.
I'm trying to think.
I need something that can like do work with me. So like can lift things, can
Just get literally get a construction droid.
not that big. Like I'm not trying to build a starship. I'm
He
like
just needs someone to cut the meat for him and make sandwiches in the back.
Wait a second.
or can help me film things.
David goes, is no one going to say droidicas? What benefits?
I was thinking droidicas, but I'm like, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
be
like what other than murdering people? Like what would you? Are you gonna stick it out in your front yard as a guard dog or something? Like
True.
That's a good idea.
I was gonna say more.
No
gonk
one's gonna
for
rob
me,
your
though.
place if you have a droidica sitting
Or
out
a
in front.
gonk. It's like a tripwire.
David goes, what
Blows
else
up.
do you need? Well,
Gonk is a good one.
Conk is a good one. You never run out of power.
True.
you could-
Oh,
you
you
could
would save
get
so
it-
much energy.
You get a Tesla and you could just keep going and going and going. You don't have
True.
to
You
stop
can
and plug in.
You could put the
Put 'em
you could
on
put the
the
gonk in the
hood.
trunk. Yeah,
Whoa.
or
The
the
front
hood.
or the back trunk. No matter what, it's the trunk.
Yeah. Or you get the SUV. You just put him in the back seat.
That's still taking up too much room. Just
Get a
put 'em
little
in
car
the trunk.
seat.
Put them in the front.
Oh, Jeremiah, I know what droid you could use to lift things. Dude, get a K2SO. They're super strong.
Ooh,
That's a good
they're
one.
And
cool
they're
too.
tall and they're intimidating. That's like the best of both worlds. It's like,
Dude,
hey,
you know
don't
what I
rob
need
me.
though?
Also, you can lift my boxes.
I want our.
Were you gonna say R4 with the bad motivator?
No, I want IG-11, but the babysitting one.
Oh, you would definitely benefit from
the reprogrammed
Yeah.
IG.
Yes, that's what I need right now in my life.
You would 100% benefit from that.
I need him to watch my child so I can go to sleep for more than 3 hours. And dude, babysitting, I want to have to pay. Dude,
I want something that can make
That's
me
what I want.
money.
or save you money, which is what mine would do.
Well, yeah, but I don't have a benefit for a maid droid.
Yet.
No?
No,
I am-
Cheeto, he can get out of hand sometimes.
That's only when neither me nor my wife can actually attend to him. If one of us is available, we're
Yeah,
golden.
there you go. So
There you
you can
go.
pet your cat while you guys are working.
No, I don't
Yeah.
trust. I don't trust the droid to pet my cat. You put that on it. That's
Wow.
Empire Radio merch right there. Never trust a droid to pet your cat.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, Dinjarin, whatever.
yeah. I mean, Clink is the obvious cute
He's just
factor.
cutesy.
Yeah.
I would get a medical droid so they could just, if I ever get sick or need anything, they could just
True.
a little Bacta right in my face and
You never have
clear my
to
sinuses.
go to the doctor or the dentist.
Oh, a nav computer or like a nav droid.
It's called
Yeah,
an
but-
iPhone.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
you
no.
have to
Okay.
have
Okay.
the-
First of all, Apple Maps
GPS
sucks.
True,
Apple
Google
Maps
Maps,
is-
suck too.
No, Google Maps is way better than Apple Maps, and both of those are better than Waze.
Fair.
Google's the
But-
best one.
One time Google sucks, then Maps is good. Maps suck, Google's good.
Dude,
It's-
when
you
I had
jump
my
back and
iPhone,
forth.
I had a terrible experience with Apple Maps.
I
every
always
time.
go back and forth. It all depends on where
Google
I'm
never
going.
fails me.
My boss still prints out MapQuest.
Well,
Good lord.
good for him.
or not.
All right. Well, there you
Anyway.
go. Thanks, Drew's Mike. Moving on, we have another edition of Stormtrooper Haiku.
Ooh.
Let's take a listen.
And now, Stormtrooper Haiku. The Empire reigns. My Emperor demands flames, but we will all burn. Stormtrooper Haiku.
Gosh.
Well,
I'm
All
so
right.
sorry to all the stormtroopers out there. That's
you had
depressing.
a good run.
Yeah, you had a good run.
Or not.
That's true. All right. Well, well executed, well written,
True.
but very
It was
sad.
beautiful.
Moving on. It's your boy David. He needs no other introduction than that. So here we go.
Hey boys, it's David from the Discord. Got a question for you. The beginning of the Jedi. It's kind of lame to me, the way it was handled in the EU. I want to know if you guys had to like rewrite your own fan fiction about the origin of the Jedi, what would you change? Personally, I would have made the Sith the original order and had the Jedi break off from them to go serve the galaxy or whatever. But that's just me. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I love how,
Oh.
for various reasons, he knew that we were talking about this. He knew ahead of time. He knew. And he's like, yeah, I think the way that they handled it in the EU is lame. Like, literally just insults the entire
The
EU with
entire
Andrew
episode that we just did. All right.
I wouldn't change anything. I really like.
I
This might be my
enjoyed it
favorite
too, so-
EU with Andrew episode.
Oh,
Ooh.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Do you have the
I
I don't
really
have the
enjoyed
button.
it. I really like the story. I think it's realistic of what could actually
Yeah.
organically happen. It's not like super like, oh, you had two twin brothers and one was light and one was dark and blah blah blah. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't something like that. So does that answer
Drew?
your question?
No, I enjoyed this too. I have 3 hours of sleep right now. I do not have the capacity to try to make up a different version right now. I'm sorry, David.
He's
Well.
even using this excuse all the time. I'm a kid. I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
Hey, Drew,
in my
Drew, did
defense,
you-
this
did
is
you-
my first week back to work. Okay, so
Oh.
Oh.
Hey, did you write your
Nice.
list down? Oh, I got 3 hours of sleep. Hey.
hey, last week I wrote my list down. You
He
didn't.
said, okay,
Oh,
That's
shots
fair.
fired. Brr, brr, brr.
Listen, look, David, I looked down. David said cop outs. You're all cop outs. Why would I need to rewrite perfection?
Ooh.
Oh,
Like,
Ooh.
this EU Origin of the Jedi is better than anything that Disney's put out aside from the TV shows that we love dearly. I'm talking about the movies, I guess, specifically.
Rogue One and Solo are pretty good.
We know what movies I'm talking about.
Okay.
The Jedi are lame and you know it. How are they lame? They're not lame. They're not lame. They're the best
I
versions
thought it
of
was
Force
really
users.
cool how
Literally,
they like.
okay, literally, Ahsoka. Everyone loves Ahsoka for a lot of reasons, but one of the main ones is because she's a great Jedi. And
Because she
Jedi, the
is balance
Jedi
of
were
them both.
what?
Because she neither good or evil. She's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally the Jedi. Qui-Gon,
Sure.
same thing.
I hate that you're saying it like that.
I mean, it's not this. It's not entirely the same thing, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but Ahsoka is canon. You freaking take that back.
He's the one that always defends
David-
you too. I don't. He's
What
going after
happened?
you tonight. What
Today-
happened?
Today in the Discord, David quoted me saying, what was my quote? Canon. Oh crap! I gotta look it up. I can't even remember my own quote.
I'm so offended. David is normally in
He's always on your side, and
my
now he
corner.
left you.
Oh, my quote was, "If it's not canon, it doesn't matter."
Yeah.
And like, there's like 1,000 emoji like reactions to it
yeah.
as one of my best quotes. So if it's not canon, it doesn't matter. So
Yeah, but this is pretty close to canon because Dave Filoni added a lot of this in there,
yeah,
Kind of.
and we don't really have like a reason to believe of anything else besides this right now.
That's fair.
Right. That is true.
So all I know is I love this story. And why would the Sith be the original thing? Doesn't make any
Maybe
sense.
people are
Because-
inherently evil, and
It's a very depressing way to think of the
To
world.
turn away from it would be the branch off.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it sounds a lot more violent, which could be cool for cinema reasons, like Squid Game.
True.
You know,
Oh,
we
that's
like it
true.
for
Anything about
Ooh.
it, don't care.
Hey, you want to talk about
Hey,
it, Drew?
but
Let's-
it's canon.
But it's
It's
canon.
not canon. Shut the heck up.
It is canon, just not Star Wars canon. All right, yeah, I would keep things the way that they are. I almost said something that I might have regretted. That could have
F-word.
No, I don't use that word, guys.
Oh.
Just leave me alone. I'm getting super tired too. I don't. If it happened, it was a complete and total fluke.
It
Accident.
didn't happen. I didn't hear it.
I
so
didn't hear it.
Anyways, all right. Well, let's go ahead and move on over to social media time, because that's the end of the.
Oh, that's all the
Did you get the
voicemails?
new blurb?
I did. You want to
Okay,
listen to the new blurb? You want to take a
Yeah,
listen
let's
to
do
it?
it.
Let's take a listen to it. Here we go. This is a quick word. Okay, I don't know if you were here last week, listener or viewer on YouTube, but if you weren't,
Or
we're part
Twitch.
of a network, or Twitch. We're part of a podcast network now, the
Yeah.
Needlessly Nerdy Podcast Network. So let's just take a quick listen to this. It's new and it's exciting. Here we go.
And hopefully it's not static. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Lexi from the Needlessly Nerdy Podcast Network, and I approve this podcast.
www.needlesslynerdy.com.
I love.
Hi, I'm Lexi from the Needlessly
Oh,
Oh,
it was about to
gosh.
go again. But I love that it's David. www.needlesslynerdy.com. But it's good because it's just a reminder that we are a part of the Needlessly Nerdy Podcast Network. They're amazing, and the goal is to bring nerdy podcasts together, make us stronger together, unify us, give us resources, and enhance everything about what we do. So thank you, everyone at the Needlessly Nerdy Podcast Network, for having us. Is it David and Lexi? Thank you for having us, and it's an honor to be a part of this. So just a reminder that we are a part of the network, and you should definitely go check them out. Check out their podcast too, the Needlessly Nerdy Podcast. It's great.
Yeah.
Do it.
Apparently, my cat likes it too.
Yeah.
In the background.
Cat needs a droid to help him out right now. Just saying.
That is true.
That is true.
But anyway, socials.
I think he's just really hungry. Anyways, if you want to connect with us on the internet, you can do so by finding the landing page link that is in our Instagram bio, in the About Us section on our Twitch, and in the description of all of the audio episodes. It is links. You can actually type this in too if you're having trouble finding it. Links with 2 I's, links.co/Empire Radio, all one word, no space. You type that in, there will be a landing page that you'll hit. It has all of our social media links. It has a link for our Discord if you want to join that, which you totally should. And it also has a link to leave us a voicemail if you want to be featured in an episode in voicemail time. So just go check that out. Connect with us. Come by and say hi. Definitely join the Discord. And again, if you, especially for these episodes or any episodes where Jeremiah happens to make a presentation, if you want to get the full effect, head over to our YouTube, Empire Radio, a Star Wars podcast on YouTube. Subscribe. Make sure you're up to date. Hit the bell icon, and you can check them out.
And like Andrew said earlier, it's now professionally edited by me.
Yeah.
So, if you try to check out our YouTube a few months ago or last year or something, and it was really janky, it's not janky anymore. So it looks actually pretty good. So don't think like, oh, I already tried it and it wasn't that great, because it was.
Wow.
Did you just insult Drew's efforts to try
Yes, he did. Yeah.
make
So
this
did you
put it
do
on YouTube?
things?
Yes, I did. I've expressed this a lot. It was very janky because it was just hard for his computer to handle all the stuff going on at one time. So it was a little not the best quality, but now it's really nice. So
True.
All right.
It's the evolution of the Empire. It's getting better and better
as we take more control. of the galaxy.
Yeah, someday it'll be all 3D too. Like you can like
Touch us.
be in 3D.
Ah,
You can
Mm-mm.
yeah, I'll be go like with this with the camera and be like whoa and be stuff like that. But
Did you enjoy those as a kid?
I've never really seen much 3D.
Wait,
stuff.
what? Are you, Spy Kids 3D?
I've never seen
Good movie.
Spy Kids in
Oh my.
2D.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay,
it's time.
well.
All right. Well, on that note, you've been listening to another episode of the Empire Radio Podcast. I'm Andrew,
I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Drew.
and may the force be with you.
Always.
Always.